using this 3D space. So I'm just going to start with a basic new project. I'm not going to go new composition, sure. Let's just go with 1920, 1080. And even though the opening title might be 30 seconds in length or something along those lines, and maybe I'll call this my master comp, just to get it up and loaded. 307, sure. All right. Now, while that's doing that, of course, I'm just going to go ahead and create a smaller new composition that would be, let's say, about 8 seconds. And this one I'm going to call main title. So think about this would be the name of the TV show, the name of the movie. Maybe I'll play around with, an existing title here. Go ahead and turn on my see-through option here. And I'm going to start off just with font and text. Turn on action symbol safe. And I'll just say, let's say, I'll just play around with one. Harry Potter. Okay, let's go ahead and just give this color that we can see. Typically like to start off with just a neutral gray, especially if I want to get like shiny reflective text. And find a cool little font. I'm not going to get too fancy with the font right now, but no, I don't like that. I'm sure you could probably download the Harry Potter font or something neat like that. I'm just looking for something that would kind of work without completely ripping it off. So of course, if I really wanted to get the Harry Potter title, I would go and find the JPEG that says Harry Potter and do an image trace in Illustrator. Maybe I'll show you that as well after this. Okay, let's go with general. All right, so I've got this simple example of a font here, of a title element. Now, 3D. Okay, so let's assume like I brought in even like some cloudy sky. I should still have this on my desktop from last week. Remember when we were creating videos and everything? Maybe not. Maybe I'll just use something like a dark alley, like that. Okay, just so we can see it a little better. Now, 3D layers, basically, to get the 3D system to work for us, is to activate this little cube, bink and bake, like that. And just to show you what that does, if I just go with the text layer here, see, and I go under transform, you see we get X and Y for anchor point, X and Y for position, X and Y for scale. Rotation is only in one axis, and opacity, of course, is opacity. But when we activate this 3D little cube here, you notice now, not only do we get a gizmo here that actually, kind of works like inside of a 3D software system, but we now get X, Y, and Z. So even instead of just X side to side, Y up and down, but Z is now forward and back. So now we can move forward and towards our layers. Something we can also do, if I go down here to the video now, okay, and go to 3D and say, for example, if I wanted to send my background backwards, okay, of course I'm going to need to scale it to fill. And then I'm going to take my text layer and move it towards the camera, right? I can now start to build what's called 3D space. Now, something I'm going to do though here is, watch this. I'm going to go and I'm going to say layer, new camera. And it's actually going to ask me things like, okay, a 2-node camera, sure. I can give it a name. I can change its millimeter, its lens size, right, to 50 to 35. Just basic knowledge of this. If you've ever worked with cameras before, whether it be virtual digital cameras, like I said in Maya, or here. Wide angle is, these are all wide angle lenses, which means you get that fisheye effect. or telephoto, which means you can, get that stacking effect of a long lens, short lens, long lens. So I'm just going to leave it at 50, which is equivalent to how our eyes function here. And just hit OK. And you see it actually now gave me a node for the camera with things like, again, transforms for rotates. But it also gives me camera options here where I can play with depth of field, and aperture. So I can get, as I fly by something, I can actually play around with how the focal depth is. But in order to understand this stuff, I'm going to come down to this section right down here and change it from active camera, okay? Or 1-point view rather to 4 views, okay? And you see what it has done is it has split my screen here into 4 different panels. So this is now the top view. And if I select it, I can even go back to transparency. You see this one over here. This is my, this is my right view. This is my active camera, and this is my front camera. And the reason why I'm doing that now is if I zoom out, you can see now I have my camera control. I have my, if I highlight my text layer, you see my text layer is here in the middle, and this back here is my video. So you can literally get a virtual kind of movie set. You can get, an actual studio kind of style to this thing. So a great example is if I were to, let's just say here, go ahead and move my Harry Potter back a little bit, right? And let's just play around with this idea of kind of pushing in on the camera, right? We're dollying the camera inward over time. So maybe right about here, I'll go with key my position till about 20 seconds. Okay, now let's push this camera in. And you see I'm actually moving the camera in. I can literally move that camera and push it right in past the Harry Potter logo. Now I don't want to go so far here that I flip. Okay, that's actually if I go too far here, I might flip the camera around because of the camera target element. So let me just do, let's see here. Okay, it's this right here. Move that target. Yeah. Okay, now you can see I'm going to fly. That camera in there. All right. Now, let's see here. Someone might have to mute their microphone. Let me see here.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. You got in here. Great. Excellent. Yeah. Well, again, just to catch you up, I'm recording all this, but I'm just kind of talking a little bit more about titles, opening titles, especially the main title, the name of the movie, or the name of the show, or the name of the program here. And I'm using it to kind of introduce how to use these 3D system inside of After Effects, 3D cameras, 3D lights, 3D layering. So you can create this like kind of animation studio or this virtual movie studio here, inside of the software. Okay, I'm going to move that target back.
Interesting.
Okay, so you see I've got a key set through my camera, initial camera. And I'm going to go to, again, back to my, where am I at here? Why am I looking at this? 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4, 5, we'll go to 6. Okay, and let's go ahead and move this camera in. So I'm just, you see, I'm actually keyframing the movement of the camera until it goes past the Harry Potter, or whatever title you want to do here. Okay. Just like so, just to get past it. Now, what's that telling me now, though, is that my background needs to look like it's even further away. So I'm going to take my background here, and it's just a little piece of video here. I'm going to go ahead and push that further back, right? Because I want to create this illusion of three-dimensional depth. like so. Because things that are closer to the camera, right, move quicker past the camera. And I want to get that illusion. So let's just go back to the beginning. Now, again, active camera is what I'm working with here. Hold on. Oh, that's right. When I move it back, I've got to scale it back up to fill the screen. So I'm in a 4-camera layout inside of After Effects. Again, top down, front view, which is traditionally what we've done in After Effects so far, is only work with the front camera. We haven't made the active or a custom camera, which is right here in the upper right. And then down below here, you can see the right view. So watch, let's just go with the right view here when I hit the space bar. Okay, and you can see how I'm flying in past that Harry Potter element there. Okay, let's keep going here and play around. Let's go with new light. I love playing around with colored lights. So maybe I'll go and pick a dark kind of lighter system here. This is going to be a spotlight. I can control the intensity, the cone angle, the feathering. I could do fall off. I can cast shadows. Let's hit OK. And you see now where I can even control this light in a 3D setup. Okay? Because what I actually want to do with this light, okay, I want this light to be parented to the camera. So as the, make it a little lighter, okay, you can even keyframe, see, the light to actually move in and out of that text. But if I parent that now, let's go ahead, push this now. Let's activate and parent that light to the camera. You can see it's moving with the camera now as if it's got a light attached to it, which means we get that lightness to darkness as it flies past that text. See? So we get that element. Now, if this was Harry Potter, obviously I wouldn't use video of, I wouldn't be using the video here of the scene. Now, last week I showed you how you can go to your online library, log in, go to resources, browse by type, video and footage. That gets us to video blocks, which we have permission to use their content. In video here, I could say clouds and find, some time-lapse clouds. Let's find, I'm looking for one that's a little darker, I guess you could say. I can always make it darker by doing a color correction. There, I kind of like that there. Unfortunately, the clouds are going in the opposite direction. Okay, that's kind of cool in there. Oh, there it is right there. Let's download that. I'll just pick a short one. Download it. There we go. See, I loaded it up. I'm going to cut it. Go to my desktop. And in my video, I'll just paste this, make sure I get the right name, Flying Over the Clouds, which will allow me, of course, to watch how cool this is, right-click on the current video, and replace that one with Flying Over the Clouds, and it will actually replace it. See that? All right, coming along pretty good. Now, some other things I could do. Like I said, I only have one light. Now, I typically prefer, let me go ahead and save this really quick. I'll call this 3D or just right now. Okay. Now, what I really like to do is usually I like to have a 3-point light system, or at least 2 lights. Something that, so instead of a spot, maybe I'll just do a point light. And I'll go with a slightly different color. Usually like to go light, warm, or maybe I'll go warm. It helps define more three-dimensionality. Maybe I'll turn down the intensity. And this point light, I'm going to move to the left. On the top down, I'm going to move it back towards the camera a little bit. Let's use my controllers here. Okay. A little bit more. And I will parent that to the camera as well. Now, right now, as I see it though, that light is too intense. Okay, let's turn it down just a little bit. So again, what I'm creating is more of a three-dimensional scene here. All right. And again, why is the light starting and then fading as it goes past? It's because when you see, this right here is the word title. But as the camera moves past, those lights are now behind. Maybe what I need to do is just have this be a little bit further back. Oops. I want a little bit more hint of color and light, so it's not completely lost in shadow. And again, if I go and double click this, I can always switch that. If the point's not working, I can go back to a spot. Should be a little warmer. There we go. So let's see what we have built so far. I'm going to go before view, back to my one view, which is my active camera, which is the camera that I've created. Let's see what we have so far. Now, what's my problem? My problem is my lights. Just highlight them both and open them back up. Okay? In their intensity, I'm going to key the intensity for both of these. Okay? So I now have keys set for them. Let's turn them down here. Okay? Okay? Key them at the same time. Now, I might very well offset. So now at the beginning, everything's kind of starting in darkness, and then it comes to light. So it's kind of like a fade up, fade out. All right, not done yet. Let's do one more light. I'm going to go back to my four view so I can see my top down and so on. Layer, new light. I'll go with a spot, but I'm going to go with a bright flash of a light here. Okay? Really intense. Very little feather. Okay? I like that. Now this one I'm not going to move or parent to the camera. Let's take this back. And all I'm going to do here, watch this, in the light options, in intensity here, is key intensity, go back in time, take it to 0. Maybe not -1, maybe, there we go. 0. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay. Just to get a flash of lightning now, watch this. So here we are in this upper right-hand corner. See? A little flash of lightning. And if I want to add another one, I can take this, Command C to copy all those keys, Command V to paste them here, and get another flash. But what that tells me now is now I need my spotlight, right? Point of interest and position. Now I'm working with this here, and this is my point of interest and position. So I'm going to angle this over here. And then by the time I'm here, that key is going to be off to the right now. So the lightning will go to the left and then to the right. Okay? And this is where we could really start to have some neat things with this, because I could even come in, we just come here and say, hey, double click that spotlight, cast shadow. Okay? So the lightning is the only one, I can even name that lightning. So the lightning spotlight is the only one that'll cast shadow. And what's going to cast shadow on? It's going to cast shadow onto this, see, onto the video. But I need to go into the material options and say that it accepts shadows, see, is on. And I need to go to my word Harry Potter here, go to the material options and says cast shadows is on. Otherwise it won't cast a shadow. Let's go back to our one view, space bar. So watch when the lightning, it'll cast shadow now onto the clouds. Taking a little bit, see that? Taking a little bit of time now. Very cool. You could also control, light transmission of that value. You could come here and you can change the textural material. So I could say, hey, you know what? Specular shininess of my text. Is this my text? Yeah, this is my text. So I can even control the material attributes of, like things like reflections and all this other stuff of these titles, of anything that's designated a 3D layer. All right, you know what's missing? I've got this still open here, right? Clouds. Let's find a cloud with an alpha channel. Now, what does a cloud with an alpha channel mean? Cloud with an alpha channel basically means that that which is black is see-through, because it's already got an alpha channel. It's kind of like if I were to type in smoke. Maybe smoke would be better. Because what I'm trying to designate here, yeah, something like that. Let's do that. I'm trying to create that illusion of 3D depth. Come on. Oops, okay. Download blocked. Let's try it again. Let's see where it goes. Okay, it's currently. Think. Get rid of those. No. What's it doing? See all these cool little smoke videos. And what it can do then is I can make a foreground, a middle ground, and a background, so it looks like I'm actually flying through smoke. See, all these are going to be alpha channel. They're usually a little bit larger file size though, because they are transparency. They have that alpha. Oh yeah, I can see it coming here. All right, they're just larger files. So we'll just get a chance to kind of test out. While we're waiting for that, again, you can still keep on playing here. Okay. Something else I can do with text. Okay, so I've got the text selected here. Let's see. Got the text selected. I can actually, watch this. Okay, come here and create shapes from text. Now, what that's going to do when it says shapes is it is literally going to convert the text to a vector. Watch how cool this is now. Shapes from text. Now you see it has hidden the previous one, the text layer, and put everything into a new layer here. And what this content does here is it still has all the, now you see cast shadows is on, accept shadows is on, but you see we get, specularity, we get all the things that we had plugged into the text layer. But it gives us one more section here called geometry options. And it says change renderer to do this. Well, what does that mean? Well, you see, inside of After Effects, we are currently using the basic called Classic 3D. It's the render engine built into After Effects. Now, if you don't have a strong enough computer, I don't recommend doing this, because the second you do, you're now going to get the option of actually, if you're familiar with 3D animation or how Maya or 3ds Max works or something, what we can actually get out of this, though, is we can get the ability of creating ray trace reflections and all this stuff by simply changing the Classic 3D to the Cinema 4D renderer. Notice now we get geometry options. And what do you mean by geometry options? Well, I can extrude in depth. Now, when you go positive, it's going to extrude in the negative Z. It's going to extrude away from the face. And this will now give us thickness to our text. So we get a three-dimensional text layer. And you can do this with logos. You can do this with anything that is vectored. So again, if I were to use a logo that I find online as a JPEG, toss it into Illustrator, image trace it, live trace it, so it's converted to a vector. I can then import it, and because it came in as a vector, it will convert it to a shape vector, which will allow me to extrude. Let's go ahead with bevel style and just say angular, so I can add a bevel element. I'm going to leave it at a little level here, maybe about 4. Okay. And I don't know if you can see this right now, but what it's done is it's converted the text into a shape and allowed us to extrude it. So now it actually has thickness. Now, it's really not going to work all that great yet until we actually play around with reflective placeholders. Okay, and I'm noticing now that my downloads have finished. Let's just cut this, place it into my video section, moving to smoke. Let's go ahead and import it. Moving to smoke, there we go. And I'm going to put this in front of in the layers. I'm going to put it on top of our text. So you see what we're doing here. Turn on its 3D layer. Let's go ahead back to our 4 view. Okay, because on the top side here, I want to make sure that that piece of video now is in fact in front of our Harry Potter text. You can even see the Harry Potter text now is actually reading as depth, even though we're looking on the top down here. Okay, like I say, I want to give that illusion of flying through this cloud that I brought in. Up quite a bit. let's see, does it time-wise last enough? Yes, it does. Maybe what I'll do with that moving smoke here, it looks like it's a little longer. Let's go to layer time stretch. And it looks like it's 34 seconds in length. So let me just knock that down to something much less, 15. Okay, so it's a little quicker. Let's go ahead and select, go back to our one view and preview. Now this is where I might get some preview playback issues because I've got 3D now and I've got the Cinema 4D, I've got all this heavy duty stuff going here. You can see how slow it's going, right? So I may want to very well just turn this down to a quarter quality to preview. It's in the space bar now, and you see now my preview is a little quicker. Now that smoke is only going to last as long until my camera punches through it because it's stacked in Z-space. But now you can actually see the thickness of the font. See that? The text layer that I converted to a shape, or created shapes from it, is our lightning bolt. We're flying through that first colored layer of smoke. But you see how we have thickness to our font now? It's really neat. Now, I may actually even want to put in another light somewhere down below or up above to help illuminate that three-dimensional text, because most of my lights are in front of it, which means any of the sides or the insides or the depth of that text that I just created as 3D text is in shadow. When you get the flash of lightning, you'll really see the thickness of it. Yeah, it's really slow because of that Cinema 4D settings. You could even set those settings up even higher so it's even more ray tracing, more quality, more reflections. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do one more view, back to my 4 view. Okay. Make another light, new. I'll just do a light. I'll do just a point light. Let's give it some strength. I'm going to make this actually be more of a dark red kind of color. Something like that. More intensity. Does not cast shadows. Okay. There, you see what that looks like now. But that light, okay, its position, I'm going to make it be way far back behind our text. Okay, so it's backlit. Put it way down low, so it's down on way low on the horizon. Okay. And something here that's telling me, oh, and even then, let's make sure it's not too bright here. See, because what that actually did now is that did cause it to kind of get a little darker. But when the lightning flashes, we'll get brightness. All right, let me see something. I think something's missing. Let's see render options here. There you go. You see on quality versus extreme quality versus draft quality. And so I'm currently at a 25% quality, which is not that great. You can see what ray depth and everything. So I can actually increase that to get, more reflective qualities and so on when I render it. Now, again, this is something to remember though. When I actually render this out, it's going to look a lot higher quality than what we're seeing right now. You will see reflections. It will have, all kinds of things going on. The only thing I might want to add to this now is because in order to get reflections, now we're looking at this word Harry Potter, this title Harry Potter right now from from the front view, right? Which means, what is it reflecting? It's reflecting what's behind the camera, which currently is just blackness. There's nothing there. So watch how cool this is, okay? Watch this. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go back to the flying through the clouds, and I'm gonna add another one. Now again, in the layer system, it really doesn't matter because we're putting this in 3D space. Activate the 3D. I'm gonna scale this thing up really large, right? This is where it gets weird though, watch this. I'm gonna rotate 180 degrees, so now it's facing, instead of facing the camera, it's facing away from the camera. And I'm gonna move this negative Z so that it is, keep going, all the way behind the camera. Right? It has to be behind the camera because right now it's blocking the view of the camera. See it? Boom. Now it's in front of the camera. Or behind the camera. See that right there? It is behind the camera because there's my camera. I could also have this be parented to the camera so that it follows. But watch how neat this is. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. Okay, I want it nice and large. Okay, I'm going to come down to the geometry options here, and I'm going to add segments. And watch how cool this is, curvature. And what it's doing is it's now making a concave version. Think of like when you go to IMAX, it literally is taking that flat video layer and curving it around like so that the text is going to pick that up as reflective. Okay? Appears in reflections is on. See that? I could do reflective intensity, right? Sharpness, to have it be blurry reflective or sharp. Let's go here and find my shape layer now. Let's make sure that that material options are, okay, accepts reflections, reflection intensity. Let's boost that. Because that's now going to pick up so that you're going to see the cloud video, which has now been flipped around and reversed. You're going to see it in the word Harry Potter. So it'll give you that metallic silver weird kind of color value. All right, let me come here and go back to my one. You can see, watch as it gets close here. Again, I am still in quarter view, but we should be picking up now more of that cloud reflection, picking it up in the actual title itself. Now, what do I do when I get this, right? I'm going to go to composition, pre-render. Now, why would I do a pre-render here? Do opening title. Now you see it wants to do it as an AVI, which is fine. It'll do it as a high quality AVI. Especially if I go into my best settings, say best and full, 1920, 1080, sure. I can change this from an AVI to some other, like a QuickTime or something like that. Maybe you prefer your QuickTimes. But we probably want to do this as an uncompressed. Now this is going to be large, which means we're probably going to have to take a break to see how this processes. I don't really need an alpha. I can just be RGB. I can import and replace the usage back into my comp. Let's do that, and let's hit the render. And it's going to show me the process. But you can see it's going to go very, very, very slowly here because it's struggling to render this out at really high quality with all these reflections now plugged into this 3D extruded version of the title, the main title. It's actually going pretty quick. right, so what we're gonna do here, let's just let this render out. Let's go ahead and take, about 9:08, let's go ahead and take, how much estimated time it says? It says 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break. I'm gonna keep this recording and keep this rendering. And then what I'll do is when I convert this to a video to post as a tutorial on my YouTube and of course on the page, on the course Brightspace, I'll fast forward through this so we don't have, we can go really quickly and you can see the process. But it's really cool to see how you can do this. So you can see the reflections now in the H. See how it's got reflectivity there in the depth of the H? It's picking up the clouds around it. Very cool stuff. All right, so let's see what we actually got here now. I'm gonna go back to my master comp and you see it actually brought it in as an MOV. Go ahead and drag it now into our opening title. And this is where even here I could do a quick little key of opacity all the way down to get a fade up. So I basically have now nested it back into my master comp, and let's see what this looks like. Maybe I should, let's go preview, and let's go full screen, and spacebar. There we go. You see how it's reflective on the inside of that to give you that shiny. Now there's a little bit of a stop there, so maybe that's why. Maybe about here where it stops moving. Maybe I'll play with this a little bit and just do a scale. Just get a little bit more. Key opacity and have it fade to black. So let's see what this is. Do that. But you can see clearly there where it's previewing it. You see how you got the reflections now? It's reflecting that duplicate version of the clouds that I flipped in reverse 180 and put it in front or behind the camera so that now we're actually seeing the reflection of clouds in the actual extruded text, which we, again, I used font, but then converted it in the layer, create shapes from text. But you see, you can also create shapes from a vector layer. You get that really cool effect there. And it's even casting shadows back there with that lightning strike. Now, that's a little cheesy at the end there. Maybe what I need to do is fade out a little quicker. Just a bit quicker here, so because the speed, so I did screw up there where I didn't have it go far enough, the camera go far enough through. So this is again where we can have some fun with this. Like I say, I mean, if I were to go and I showed you guys this last week where, you know, type in Harry Potter opening theme MP3. And you can see here, see that logo there is done in a very similar way of having this reflective kind of. So you see we got some shakiness with just a little bit of, that could be using the wiggle there. Let's see, I'm trying to find just a version. There. Okay, so watch this now. If I go to YouTube, so I'm going to use this music. Okay, copy this URL. Do a YouTube to MP3 conversion. Find then one that works here. Some of them work, some of them don't. Paste. Now this is where you got to be, kind of careful when you convert. Download. And it's going to give you pop-ups here on this. Just don't click any of that. You don't need to download. You don't need to install. See, it opened 2 extra windows there. See if it actually did a download. No. All right, let's try a different one. So I don't know which one you work here. Let's try that one. Not all these work because it's a lot of pop-ups, obviously. There we go. Now it's downloading. Don't allow. There we go. Now I got the theme downloaded. Close, close, close. Okay, let's grab the theme, cut it. Let's go ahead and put this in audio file. Okay. From here, whether I go File Import or right-click Import, just drag it in. Okay, and now I can kind of add this to the main theme. Okay, now let's get. Now it's just an issue of timing. Let's open up our wave, find the timing here. So look at the waveform. You see it starts here. Maybe have it start in after about 4 seconds. I'm looking for peaks and valleys, maybe right about there. Where I want it to be visible. Right about there. So we have a little intro. And we can get a little bit of an opening title. Then it's just an issue of going back and finding, okay, starring, directed by, who's the actors, musical score by, all this stuff that you can put in there. Just having other uses of video, or you could use, again, graphics and images, JPEGs that you can cut apart inside of other software, okay? Like I said, Illustrator or something. So let's show you that. What else can we do? Go ahead and launch Adobe Illustrator. So let's say here, let's go to Images, right? And you can see, of course, their text and everything. But let's use the Warner Brothers logo, for example. Okay. Now, I'm looking for a very simplified version of it, something like this instead of all this fancier kind of, because I want to keep it kind of simple. Let's go with this one. I want to avoid it butting up against the edges there. So I'm looking for one that isn't quite, there we go. Something simple like this, okay? Now let's say you want to do a font, a logo, or a text like this. And remember before I used just font, okay? Let's go ahead and save the image as desktop, title, fonts, textures. Maybe I need a new folder here and just call it the logo. Okay, and I'm just going to save it there. So what if we're dealing, instead of dealing with text, okay, we're dealing with a graphic, like a logo. And this is, again, something that will apply back even to where we're doing the other assignments, not just what we're talking here, but we're talking about, a broadcast style comp, which is an advertisement. So maybe you want to do a station identification for like tonight on Sci-Fi Channel, or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or an announcement about a festival, like a strawberry festival or something, coming. You just think about an advertisement on TV or a bumper or something like that. That would be the broadcast style comp, which we'll get into next week, or animated logo, or station identification, or you want to do a 3D version of that, or even going down here in Module 5 where you're required to submit at least. Now, I'm showing you 3D. You don't have to do this for the opening title, or the logos, or the broadcast.com, but it's cool to see how this works, because eventually by Module 5, I will want to see you guys make an attempt at doing this 3D technique here. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead. Actually, the best way to do this would be create new. I can go to film and video. I can find the 1920 by 1080 setting and hit create. Now this is going to create, I'm in Adobe Illustrator now, but I'm showing you how to vectorize. Okay, and I'm going to file, place, find that file here, open title, logo, there it is. Turn off the link, I don't want to link it. Didn't realize this was quite as small as it was. Okay, so I have this logo in here now. And under properties, you're going to see this option called image trace. Do an image trace. It's a black and white logo right now, so let's do that. And you see it has now vectorized it, but I'm not done yet. Because what I want to do here is I can go into some options here. For example, I don't want the white, so I can say ignore the white. I can even say less paths. Now, I don't want to destroy the logo, but I do want less paths. That looks pretty good there. I can have more or less corners. Let's do something like that. And I can do threshold more or less, see, to get bigger or bolder. Keep kind of thin like that. Close it. I expand, ungroup, okay? And what this is, you can see here, is I have literally vectorized this logo. I may want to come here and edit the colors now, so let's convert to RGB, which will allow me to give it that, maybe I'll go with more of a golden color. Like that. So right like that, I've created the vector version of a logo, or a graphic, not a font. All I gotta do is save this as okay, and I'll just call this WB logo as an Illustrator file. But it's really important here. In order for After Effects to use this vector logo, this vector graphic from Illustrator, we have to choose, it's very important, a version of 8 or lower. We don't want any of the CS versions. We want an older version of the vector file. It's the only way it'll work in After Effects. So I have that now done. Now, if I want to, I can minimize my Illustrator. So now, that's my main title, okay? Which I've now kind of converted here. Watch what I can do now, okay? I'm going to come and find the font, which I don't really need anymore. Get rid of it. I can get rid of my outline version with the extrusion. Get rid of it. Let's go ahead and bring in now our logo, which is an AI, and import it as a composition, not as footage. You could actually bring it as footage, I guess, but I want a composition, import. Okay? This allows us to grab our logo. We'll go ahead and put that now into the shot. So that, activate it so it's 3D. Go ahead and go to my 4 view, just so I can see where that logo is. Looks like it's in about the same spot. Let's see. Yeah, looks like it's in the same spot where it was before. The 1 view again. But again, this is a vectored AI version of the logo. I still, just like I did with the font, I need to go to Layer, Create, Shapes from the vector layer. This vectorizes it, this hides the original, and creates the shape version, which now I've got to do things like geometry options for, again, extrusion depth. This would have been important for me to know what was the extrusion depth of the prior one. And you see now I've got depth to this logo. Again, I could do bevel. I think I did a 4 before. Okay. Go to material options. Cast shadows, yes. Accept lights, appears in reflections. Increase the reflection intensity here so it picks up the cloud that I remember the video that I put around the other way. Specular shininess makes it more metallic. It actually darkens it, but it makes the hot spots of the reflective logo appear more. And you see now what it will look like. Now again, it's going very slowly here because it's having to do all this ray tracing and I'm at quarter quality. But now I've got the logo kind of loaded in the same way I did the title. And this again would be something along the lines of, tell you what I'll do here, watch this, so I can keep working here. Add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. So instead of just pre-rendering it, I'm going to send this off to the media encoder because it's just another way I can do this, which will allow me to keep working if that's the case. And it'll pop up here in just a moment because it's making that dynamic connection. There it is. And here again, I can come and I could say, yes, I could do an uncompressed, QuickTime. I'm just going to leave it as H.264 just so we can see it. I'm going to change this now instead of being main title. I'm going to change this to be WB logo. Okay, and put it into the compositions. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, and render it out. See if this does it any quicker. I doubt it. It may actually take longer because I'm doing it in media encoder outside. Now it tells me remaining time 9:36. Oh, back up to 10. But you can see now it is now putting that three-dimensional logo in there. But what's cool about using the media encoder is it lets me keep working. See that? So now I can now have, let's go ahead and open this one up. Maybe I'll have Harry Potter pop up right about there as far as how it appears. And then I'll be able to bring in right about here the WB logo appearing as well. There. Yeah, you see it's now 16 minutes because I'm using a lot of RAM here. But the point simply being here is that you can utilize these 3D layers pretty efficiently of, graphics and logos and all this kind of stuff. All right, come on. Going, yeah, that's a 16. And this is probably because I'm running low on RAM. So just, recall that as we're working here, okay, I'm just going to pause. As we're working, I have been compiling a lot of RAM preview. So if I purge and go to all memory and disk cache, you can see there's 8.6 gigabytes that have been used up just in the last 2 hours. So if I hit OK here, I can purge that. Now, what has that done? That has deleted the green progress bars that After Effects has stored, but is not giving me back 8 gigs, which is kind of nice, which means some of this might even work faster. I can even just currently save this, right, and close down After Effects to give me more RAM availability so that my media encoder can go a little bit faster here. But just remember that it's using that Cinema 4D renderer, which is more advanced because it has reflectives and ray tracing. So it's going to take longer to compile and build this or render this out because it's taking in reflections. Whereas the classic 3D renderer, which is the main renderer you get inside of After Effects, is very lightweight and does not give you this cool, reflective, metallic kind of effect. So again, I don't really want to wait the full 16 seconds here. Just go back here. Launch After Effects. I mean, it takes time. Just understand that some of you may have actually even had Maya or Softimage or 3ds Max classes. Rendering takes time. There's no way around it. It's all based upon how fast your machine is, your computer you're using, how much RAM you've got. I mean, I could actually, the title, take this and drop that in there temporarily. And let me go ahead and turn off full screen here. You can see it is really having quite the struggle here of getting this to show up. So maybe again, I'll just do a quick. So instead of waiting for it to render, I'm just going to use the composition itself. You can see, you know, I've got the logo flying in as a 3D logo, all that lightning, all that clouds, and then as it goes by, it's going to fade out to then reveal the main title element here. And then maybe it's a question of now, what kind of background, what kind of video do I want to use for, you maybe go back here, go to my video here, let's try London at night or something like that, right? Or, you know, old railroads, you know, some of these time lapse flying over London like this, or old British rail, what do you call that? Train. I don't know why I'm thinking rail. You know, find some stock footage that deals with, you know, so there's one going through the woods, but then I would darken it up, make it more gloomy looking, making it look, you know, flying over a castle, right? There's a neat one there, right? A little flyover. Go ahead and download, just see what that does. Give it a second to download. Here it comes. How do you say download what? Try it again. There we go. Now again, just remember that video blocks, the login here through the link, through the school library link, will kick you out. It will log you out if you've been open too long or something like that. Let's see, it should be coming. Here it is. Cut. Desktop. Title. Videos. Paste. Now that's Gary old Luxembourg. It's funny. Gary old Luxembourg. And then And then maybe I have this aerial video here of this train. Key opacity, have it fade in, fade out. Like so. And then even here, right? Look at this. I could do an effect, color correct. Let's do a photo filter to give it a little bit of a color tint here. I think it's magenta. Let's go ahead and color correct it again, and let's go with a level. Where I want to get it more dark, almost make it look like it is, you know, at night. And then I can start putting in directed by, starring, all that stuff. All right, that's what media coder up to. Still got 13 minutes. See, it doesn't like it when you're working, while you're working and rendering at the same time. That's why we took a break the first time, because it's trying to chug through this and it's having a rough time getting it all done. And I don't, if I kill it now, I'm gonna lose it, that kind of stuff. So basically, guys, that is the process of, again, a little bit more information on doing the opening title, okay? And work with some of the content to create more interesting than just a simple title element or the main title element, or how to actually bring in and create that chrome base, that modern Hollywood kind of title element there. There are plenty more ways I can show you to work with that. Like, again, you can even put a texture onto that so it's not shiny, smooth chrome. You can make it look grimy and scratched by applying, again, some texture elements to it, bump map kind of things. Just a lot of potential we can do here with these opening titles. All right, does anybody have any questions right now? I see David.
No, I don't have any questions.
No? All right, well, that's
I
about
have a
all.
question.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. How did you activate the 3D effect again?
To do that, all you got to do whenever you bring in something, it's like, let's assume right now, like this video I just did, okay? In order to get it in the transform to give me X, Y, and Z, it's this little cube. See this right here, is you just activate that cube. And the second you do, you get X, Y, and Z factors. But that's also true, again, just go with a new composition, right? Just get out of there right there. So the same thing kind of applies here, that whether it's text, or it's a JPEG, or it's that logo element. See, if I just come here and just type in 3D, let's make sure that, let's get a better looking font and then check something that's easier. There. Okay, and remember too, because I'm using colors with the lights, the color of the text here is less important, because the text is not going to be necessarily that color once you add reflections. Remember, chrome or steel or metal, what color is it? It's gray. But yet if it's polished and it's shiny, it's the color of the environment around it. Okay, so, you know, it has no color. So this is just a simple technique. I don't know why this computer has just absolute horrible font choices by default. I just don't. There, Franklin had the copy. Okay, so again, in order to convert a layer into 3D, you come over here and go ahead and open that text layer up and transform. All we do is activate this little cube. See this little cube here? Activate it. And now we get X, Y, and Z capability. So we can rotate it in a third dimension, see that? Rotate it on the x-axis, rotate it on the y-axis, and rotate it on the z. We could also move it forward and back. Now, to get that to actually be a 3D extruded, to get that, that depth to it, we have to convert whatever this is by going layer create and create a shape from the text. Or if we bring in an Illustrator file, create shape from the vector. So if I do this, create shape from text, the most important thing it does is it hides the text layer because it's now converted it to a vector. See this? Which gives me now these options of, changing the material attributes, but it doesn't give me the geometry options unless I change the renderer. We change the renderer here, see this? From classic to Cinema 4D. Now it gives us the geometry options of extrusion. So I can make this be thick. I can add bevel to the edges. And add bevel elements to it. But then, because we've done it, in fact, let me go ahead and do this, and let me just rotate on the Y a second, just to show you. I'll go show you here how this works. Let me go ahead and full. But you notice that this, right now, it's just a diffuse, because in the material options, we need to turn on some attributes, like it needs more specular, more shine. Okay? It probably wants to have some reflection. See, so notice now it suddenly got black. And it got black because it's reflecting the fact that the world is black. But if I actually start to put things like lights in here, see, I'll go with a spotlight. And again, I like to do warm and cool typically to get the best results. So I'll do a spot. Let me turn it down. Okay. So now, because I did this, now, why is it all black here? This is where we go to the 4 views, because you can see my 3D layer is here. Right? Let me zoom out on the top view, but my light is here.
How do you activate the 4 screens?
It's all the way to the far right here, where it shows you 1 view, 2 view, 4 views. So again, if you're 3D, if you've been in 3D, if you've played around with Maya yet, if you've played around with 3ds Max, you work in a 4-panel setup. It typically gives you a perspective, but it also gives you front, top, side, all that bottom options. And that's how you want to see the world, is with those 3 dimensions. Okay, so now my camera is aiming. See, you can see my 3D, you see my light rather, see my 3D layer. Now we can come in here. Okay, let's increase the light. Now, I typically like to have more than 1 light, so I'll put another spot, but I'll maybe go cool with this. Not quite as intense. And this light, I'll go and I'll put it to the opposite side. See how it's starting to show up now? Okay, see, so now the face is lit with the blue, but the side is lit with the yellow or orange. See that? Let's go back to the 1 view here. And you can see it now. See that? See how it's got that reflected, that shine and specularity? So no matter what color I made this originally, it's changing because of the light. But I'm not going to see a lot of this until I start to think about bringing in background elements. So let's come here. Right, maybe I'll use this. I'll just bring in this. Okay, this scenery here, right? This element of this world. Now again, turn it on 3D, but then in 4 view, I need to make sure that that video that I just brought in is behind, see, way behind the 3D, right? It needs to be in the background. And because we moved it way back in Z space, I need to scale it up. Now again, if I want that world that is here to show up in the reflectivity of this, right? I need to have another one of these. Now I can do it really quickly here by just hitting Control D to duplicate it. This one is going to get rotated 180 degrees on the Y. So it's now facing away from the camera, right? But then I need to remove it or move it back. Whoops. It's kind of hard to grab these little guys. See, I need to move it to the other side of the 3D so that this video is facing this 3D logo now. And this is where, again, I can scale it, make it bigger, and then use the geometry options of this planar video to add curvature and segments. So that it is now, as I move it back in here, what it's doing is it's inside this, you see how it got thickness to it. It is literally wrapping around that 3D logo, which means now it's picking up the reflections around there. You could literally do this. Let me just take this and delete it. I could literally do this, duplicate.
So to turn it into like the rectangle, you just increase the Y?
No, to turn it into this rectangle, see, this is where I wish I could draw on this. Let me see what I can do here. What it's doing is it's taking that flat video and it's curving it around. So like I said, think of an IMAX screen. Instead of being flat, it's now curving it around. And then this other one has been flipped 180, which is now curving it around, which means the logo is now floating in the middle of a foreground and a background so that it can pick up the reflections. It's basically, it's acting like a curved mirror all the way around the logo. So the logo now should be picking up. Let's see, which one is this? Right, so this one. Okay, yeah, I realize what I've done now. I have accidentally, this one is supposed to be 0 rotation, yes. Strange. You see. Oh, I'm blocking my layout. See? I'm blocking my lights because I have put this inside there. See, it's wrong. It's actually blocking out the lights because I'm looking through, the lights are trying to shine through. There we go. Okay. You can even see this from the side view here. See where I need to move this? There we go. See? So it's no longer blocking those lights. So let's see in a way here what this basically did. So you see now you've got the reflections of the world. See that? The reflections of the world inside are shining because it's bouncing back towards the text. So the best great way to think about this, if I were to put a chrome reflective ball, like a silver shiny ball, and I was going to put it in the middle of the room here, middle of the classroom, because it's got the four walls and the ceiling and the floor, it is able to reflect the space. In the virtual world here, I've had to create the room, right, by basically using this video, this video of this environment here, but I've had to place it around the shiny logo, around the shiny extruded piece of text here, so that it picks up on and shows up in this. So I could literally, come here, show me this is. And I've done this with logos before. Let's minimize that. Okay, so here is our 3D outline, right? Let me go ahead and turn off the material, go to my transform, go to 0 rotation again. And I could literally say, now it's aiming right at us. Now, one thing that's interesting here is just to be aware. So you see if I rotate this, it is not rotating at center because I've extruded it. So what I need to do is I need to find whatever my extrusion level is. Let's make this an even number, like 300. But then I need to change the anchor point half that. So that now if I rotate it, it's center anchored. See that? So watch what's neat here. I can even say here, you know what? Hey, key my position here at 1 second. Let's go back to the beginning and let's send this up in Y. Whoops, up in Y, up out of the screen. All right. So I now have this basic keyframing, and what I'll do here is I'll key the rotation. Maybe I'll come to 4 here, and I'll add 5 full rotations. Okay, now what I'm going to do, of course, is also select my keys, right-click, and tell it to be ease in, ease out, so it gives me easy stop in and out. Now, just to see the performance, let's go to quarter view and make it a little smaller. So you can see I now am going to animate this 3D logo or text flying down into the scene, rotating. And what it's doing is it's picking up the reflection of this background everywhere it goes. Even cooler than this, what if I wanted this 3D logo here to kind of do its thing, but I don't want it, I want the reflections to work, but I don't want to actually see these videos. See down in the material options, I could say appears in reflection, right click, only. Okay, watch what I'll do to the lower one. Material options, appears in reflections, and just click it once, and now it's only. You see now, this logo is picking up the reflections, but it's on a blank background. So I can drop this onto any color background I want now, and so it kind of gives me that neat effect of, well, a shiny reflective material, where I could come in here and just say, hey, new layer, solid. Okay, obviously that layer solid needs to be 3D. It needs to be set backwards a little bit because you see how it's going through it right now because it's on the 0 axis. So let's just send it back. But of course, when you send it back, you need to scale it up. Okay? And even here, I could say material options of this appears in reflections, okay, reflection intensity. So as I do that now, believe it or not, this backdrop, this layer solid I just added, would reflect this 3D layer as well. I just make sure that my 3D outline material option appears in reflections, yes, it's on as well. So you can see how we can get this neat effect here. Now this might be, again, another issue for the render options. Now I'm at typical. I can go to extreme, but it's going to go really slow here, okay? And let's just do a quick little rendering now of this. I'll just do a quick dime. And what I'll do here, just to make this quick, I'll just do an animation, which is lower quality. I don't need the alpha. Where's it going? Let's make sure I'm going to, I'll just go here to comp 1. Let that render out. And now you see that as it comes and flies in here, it's actually playing video in the reflection. So it looks like it's in that space, even though I'm not even using that video space. Oftentimes when you see like a logo like that, right? You're watching a TV show, you're watching a logo, maybe it's a a Chevy logo, and they're just using video of a cloudy blue sky just to make it look like it's chrome. But really, it's just reflecting that. And again, you're seeing the reflection of the logo in the back layer as it's flying down from the top of the screen. That's why it looked weird there, because that was just a reflection of it. But that is really, really neat that we can do that kind of stuff to get that effect. It's just a little bit longer wait time because you have to wait for this because it's doing a lot of that pretty. Remember, texture, lighting, reflectivity, ray tracing, that is what increases the size of render times. So you can imagine if I'm in like a 3D software package and I just have a simple like kind of animated character walking across the screen, well, if I just use a basic renderer with no reflections, no shadow cast, very little lighting, it would render very quickly. But if I'm looking for that super realistic, think something like Transformers, or or something which has all that reflection, all that motion blur, all that depth of field, all that stuff. Well, it can get very, very heavy in the rendering process. And something also that's weird you notice is when this is backwards, it doesn't say 3D, it says backwards D3. So that's something also you might want to think about if you're going to do like an animated logo, is to actually have one facing front and one facing rear, and then you just simply parent them together so that they follow one another. But when it's backwards, it still reads correctly. But yeah, you can see here where it's actually, like I say, demonstrating and showing the reflection of that video inside the actual text. This is pretty advanced stuff, guys. This is stuff that After Effects has only really had for a few years now, about 4 years. And it's mostly because, well, they partnered with Cinema 4D, which is a 3D package that's designed for, again, a lot of broadcast graphics, motion graphics for TV. So when you're watching like the sports, ESPN or NFL or basketball, all those shiny graphics, for the news or whatever, that are all reflective and metallic and chrome looking, this is what they're doing. They're actually using this kind of technique, not necessarily using a Maya or something like that. But you can clearly see how it's reflecting that environment, even though I've hidden that environment and say appears in reflection only, does not actually render out that video. I mean, if it was, it's weird because it's a landscape with a train and everything. If it was actually, like I said, clouds, or you could even use what's called HDRI, high definition reflective image, or video that. If I think of like back in the day, visual effects movies like, Hellboy was a great example, where they would take an HDRI video. So they would actually set up a camera in the middle of the room that would take 360-degree video, so that, if Hellboy is about to fight this, this metallic golden robot, the golden robot is actually reflecting the video of Hellboy walking around in the room, because it's actually been videoed in 360. And so it picks up those reflections, because that's what the worst thing you want is to have live action that doesn't show up in the 3D CGI, character. And that's where ray tracing, and that's why video games have gotten better, where, video games are using ray tracing to be able to create real world reflections. So as your person or character is walking by a screen inside of a game, or if, a character is, standing next to another character and they're both wearing like shiny armor, they actually reflect off each other because they're reading the ray tracing. But the time for the render just spikes when you do that, because the texture and the lighting and everything is based upon the environment itself, as opposed to the old style game characters where you just painted a texture on there And no matter what happened, that it just, that was the texture that you lived with. It didn't evolve. It didn't pick up the environment around it. So again, you can see this is going to take some time. I'm just going to hit cancel here. But you can see the result. Okay, let me just clear out my render queue. Because back here, it should have finished the WB logo. Let's see here, main title Arial, where did you go? Main title MOV. Main title MOV, no. Because that me encoder finished. Now that was main title H264. Okay, so let's find out where that went. There it is. There. Needs to be placing that one. Here we go. That one, and now I need to have my simple fade ups and fade outs here. Opacity 0. Right, let's just see what this looks like now. So I've just got the WB logo. Just preview full screen. Let's see what this is about. Okay. Okay. Now I could have my directing, starring, all that information here kind of plugged in, right? So, in a nutshell, a way of working with 3D layers, very cool stuff there. Again, text, easy to do, that's kind of what I did here, we're just using text, but remember, the secret is layer create. And again, shapes from text or shapes from the vector Illustrator vector file, saved as an older Illustrator 8 or older version. And again, when you go to extrude to get that depth value after you hit that little cube, we have to switch it to Cinema 4D in order to make it work. Because watch, if I go back to Classic 3D, nothing's working, see? Nothing's working because 3D does not have that ray trace or that extrusion capability. So that this here is, these are just, you know, it's just flat, see? Because you only get that extrusion capability in the Cinema 4D option. All right. Stop share, focus where, if I'm like here, for example, I can literally come to my camera that I created here, see? And I could basically add, let's get into it here, camera options, depth of field, okay? And if I go to let's just go to a top-down view here, so I can go to individual views. So there's my top-down view. So now my camera has depth of field, focal distance, and aperture. So you see, I can control what is in focus and what isn't in focus. So I could say, like right here, maybe increase my aperture a little bit, go back to my active camera. So as I'm animating through here, okay, this will be in focus. The logo will be in focus until I get maybe too close to it, and then it'll go out of focus. Okay, if I get too close to it here, maybe this has to be a low number. Or a super high number. I can't remember how this actually works, but it's basically using depth of field and depth of focus. So if something gets too close to the camera, it goes out of focus. Oh, I'm having a problem with it playback. See, this blue progress bar is giving me hell. Just can't remember what is these parameters. So you think about it, it's focusing on the background video, but that which is closest to the camera here would go out of focus. And I think this has to just be a really high number. It's got to be a really low number. I got to play around with this. It's been a while since I've played around with the aperture and depth of field. This draft 3D. All right, I'll get back to you guys when we get a little further on down here as far as playing around with the depth of focus, because it's not really performing the way I want it to. So you've even got zoom, so you can play around with the zoom value here. So you're zooming in on the camera rather than moving the camera. Allows you to get like some weird focal depth kind of elements there. Yeah, not really getting into it. Oh well. Okay, anyways. And remember too, when you're done with your project, or if you want to lighten your software up, go to the purge, all memory and disk. See, here's another 5.4 gigabytes I can clear if once I'm done with that, so I get that. A lot of times when people work in After Effects, they forget that, and then suddenly they have no memory left on their computer. Like, where'd all my memory go? It's because of the cache.